Hey everyone, welcome to another great episode of the Smooth Business Growth Podcast, where we share 15 minutes of fast-paced, pure marketing strategies proven to move the needle in your business. So I'm your host and Captain Lindsay Phillips, and I'm the founder of Smooth Sailing Business Growth, where we help busy entrepreneurs attract and acquire customers faster through powerful and consistent content marketing. In fact, if you go to smoothbusinessgrowth.com, then you can download your social media roadmap to help you do just that. So today we are going to get into some good stuff on one of my favorite topics, because we're chatting with Rob Greenlee, who is VP, Head of Partnerships at Voxnest and Spreaker, and he is the 2017 inductee into the Academy of Podcasters Hall of Fame and former content and business manager with Podcast TV at Microsoft, Xbox Live, and Zune. And he does host, of course, the SpreakerLiveShow.com podcast. His rap sheet is long, my friend. So clearly he knows his stuff when it comes to podcasting. So gosh, we could speak to him forever on his expertise, but today I want to focus on analytics and podcast success tips. So let's set sail. So welcome aboard. Yes. Yeah. Thanks for coming. I was saying earlier, your rap sheet precedes you. It's like massive.
Yeah. Longer than my arm. No.
That's awesome. And it just goes to show that, podcasting is taking off even more so. It is wildly successful and popular. But there's still some entrepreneurs that haven't, dove into it quite yet. So for anyone that's starting out, what types of goals should we have kind of going into that content marketing strategy?
Yeah, I think that the big thing to do is exactly that. Have a goal for what you're doing and get some focus anyway. It doesn't have to be like a written formal business plan, but just kind of get it in your head what you're trying to accomplish with your podcast, and basically establish some really basic goals for what you're doing the show for, and also think about the focus of your show and who you're trying to reach with the content of the show. And, it's never going to be perfect, and it's definitely something that you're going to evolve and change over time as you learn from your audience and as you learn as a podcaster. This is a fluid thing, but you just need to have a mental position on someplace to start. And I think that's the biggest thing. You're not going to get it right the first time. You're probably not going to get it right for the first 3 or 4 or 5 episodes. But at some point, this thing is going to click with you, and it's either going to work or it's not. And just prior to the show, we were just talking about this term pod fading. And one thing that doing this process at the beginning a little bit, even though it may be a little on the basic side, is to keep you from doing what's called pod fading. And that's where you start a podcast, you do like maybe 7 or 8 episodes, and you run out of steam. Basically, you run out of things to talk about, or you get kind of frustrated because maybe your audience isn't growing as fast as you would hope it would, and you get discouraged and life gets in the way and stuff. So if you plan a little bit and set some modest goals, just realize that your first few episodes, you're probably not going to get anybody listening to your show realistically.
It's
going to be it's going to take some time. So you need to be patient with yourself. And that needs to be part of your plan too. It's to say, the first few episodes, I'm going to learn how to do this. I'm going to learn how to use a microphone. I'm going to know how to share this in social media and market it out there. So, it's a lot to think about at the very beginning, but it's really important.
That's so true. And I always like my first few videos and my first few, podcast episodes. Like, to me, I'm like, they kind of sucked. And you have to go in thinking that they're probably not going to be the best, and you're nervous, and it takes a while to get your groove, right? I feel like I should re-invite those guests back to have a redo.
Exactly. Could I do that again? And you probably can. So, I've been a guest on podcasts multiple times. So if you're starting out at the beginning, like I said, very few people are going to be listening to you at the beginning. So don't get too freaked out if you mess up or you do something a little bit wrong. Just learn from it and learn fast. This is a classic example of fail fast.
Yeah, no kidding. I fail to succeed.
Yeah, and learn each time you do the episode. And what you'll find is that as you get better, your audience will grow. And as your audience grows, it becomes more important for you to stay really focused on what your goals are. So just kind of stumble your way through it at the beginning, and then just kind of, blossom and grow and kind of learn from the process, and listen to other podcasts too.
Yeah.
Listen to other successful people that have been doing this for a year or two or three or more. It'll really help you.
I agree. And it's like, for me, my goal was to simply share content and to help entrepreneurs and give great tips. What I didn't realize and kind of factor in was the connections and the relationships that I've made, with having people on my show or me being on other people's shows. I didn't realize it would have that much of an impact on me, but it really does. And that honestly is the part that I love the best. Now, some I know go into podcasting to like, I'm going to make money off of it, I'm going to monetize. What is your response to that goal?
I would say that most podcasts, when they start out, are not going to really be able to effectively monetize because they don't have any audience yet, right? So you need to get really practical about it. But going back to the goals really quick, what kind of show do you want to make? Do you want a show where you're trying to support another business, like a consulting business or some other company that you work for, or you're just trying to be a leader in it?
That's true.
And then kind of back up and think, okay, do I want to do a show that has advertising in it and make my show directly? And if you do, then what I would do is go out and get yourself associated with some affiliate programs,
right?
Or get in the game of running advertising. Because one of the things that you will find very quickly is doing a podcast is really all about setting audience expectations. And you need to be able to fulfill that. And oftentimes a show will do many, many episodes over successive years and not have any advertising in it. And then all of a sudden one day, I want to make money on this thing. And they add advertising to it and they lose a bunch of their audience.
Oh, interesting.
So if you come into it at the beginning with a clear goal of what you're trying to accomplish and have that stuff, it doesn't have to be a big effort on your part, but what it does is it helps you learn how to like do a host read or to talk about a sponsor or something like that on your show. Go to Amazon and get an affiliate program. And if there's some product that you just love, that you use in your daily life, promote it on your show and just don't take a big chunk out of your show, but just basically establish a place in your show where you're going to talk about some sort of sponsor message. And that sets you up for the future, because a lot of advertisers that want to advertise on podcasts want to advertise on podcasts that are already running advertising. So because they know that the audiences are used to hearing that. And they also know that the host that's doing the reads knows what they're doing when they do the reads too.
That's a very valid point. So in kind of tracking to figure out, how is my show successful, or is it? I know, Voxnest and Spreaker, they track analytics and stuff like that. What analytics should we be looking at as podcasters?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't focus too much on your analytics because you may get a little depressed, especially at the beginning. So just focus on the content, focus on the show at the beginning, how you produce it, what does the audio sound like? And then once you've done like maybe 5 or 6 episodes, go ahead and jump in there and look around and see what your numbers are starting to look like, because early on you're not going to have a lot of numbers, so it's not going to give you a lot of valuable information. But as you get up to like your 3rd, 4th, 5th episode and you started to market it and you started to tell your friends and starting to share it and share it to your professional community or whatever the focus of your show is, get in there and start to see what the trend lines look like on the demographics, who's listening, male, female, how long are they listening? And that's also a component that's available on like a Spreaker type platform, is that we track time spent listening.
Nice.
And then Apple is actually starting to expose that now more and more too through their login, is that you can see how long your audience is listening to your show to different points in your program. And so if you match that up against what you're doing in your program, you can kind of see where people like maybe stop listening. So like at 10 minutes and 50 seconds, I see a drop in the Apple platform about people actually listening to my program, you can get a sense on segments and content transitions and what you're doing in your program that may be turning people off, or
Right.
because you want people to listen all the way to the end if you can. And a lot of listeners to podcasts do that. I think it's like 85% of podcast listeners listen to the whole podcast. So
Nice.
it's a pretty high percentage.
It is.
But if your content has like a big disruption in the middle of it or in the beginning of it, or you're playing, you're not getting to the point early enough in your podcast, you may be losing people early in your show. And these new metrics can actually help you with your content too. So it's something to think about as well. But then there's the basics of how many downloads you're getting, how many plays that you're getting, what devices are you getting listens on. And I think
that I love to look at.
Yeah, and that's a very important one too, because you may not be exposing your show to all the platforms out there. If you're getting a lot of listens on the particular platform that you're on, but you're not getting a lot of listens in iTunes, or you're not getting a lot of listens on Android, then maybe you need to focus on getting your show into platforms that are available on Android, or driving people to find you on various platforms that maybe you're weak on.
That's true. And now, what would you say are, I don't know, the top 5 platforms that we should at least start out with?
Well, actually, Apple is number one.
Yeah.
And there's a variety of kind of platforms inside of that too. So you have like the iPhone and iPad and iOS and Mac and things like that will break out in your stats. So it's really a matter of kind of rolling up all those numbers on the Apple side. Just keep in mind too, getting in the Apple catalog will get you into lots of other third-party apps out there that tap into the Apple's catalog. So a lot of third-party apps on Android as well as iOS tap into Apple's podcast catalog. So getting on Apple's catalog is the most important. And then I would say next on the list would be like Stitcher. As another one. They have good kind of install base in cars and autos right now. And then probably the third one would be TuneIn. TuneIn also is the default audio player for the Alexa or the Amazon Echo smart speaker, smart assistant platform, which is growing and doing very well right now too. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so so if you owned an Echo device or something like that, you can just tell the Echo device, play such and such podcast, and you'll find your podcast if you're in TuneIn. So I would say that one, iHeartRadio is important, and you can get in through various platforms, and Spreaker is one of them. Spreaker did the original podcast deal with iHeartRadio.
Awesome.
So you can certainly get in there. A lot of the hosting platforms are working aggressively to make it really easy to get into all these platforms.
Yeah.
And make it as simple as just pushing a button. And that's really my job at Voxnest and Spreaker, is to help that process, work with platforms to make it easier for podcasters to get their shows out there. And then there's a bunch of smaller ones out there. There's Google Play Music. There's Sonos. There's getting your show into Spreaker is important as well, because we have millions of people listening to podcasts as well. But those are the main ones. Yeah.
Awesome. And it's like the more you get out there to those directories and what have you, the bigger audience you're going to get. You're going to reach more people, which is what you want.
Yeah.
And so when we're starting out, but even when we've been doing it for 6 months kind of thing, what kind of expectations should we set? Because sometimes we have no idea what to expect walking into it. How many downloads should I have? Or like, how do I measure the success and the progression of my show?
Yeah, I think it's really easy to get kind of caught up in numbers like that and get kind of competitive and think, oh, I'm only getting 500 plays or 500 downloads of my show. It's a failure and stuff like that. But I think you need to get perspective. When was the last time you got up in front of 500 people and did a presentation? Most people, that rarely ever happens, right?
Right.
So if you're only reaching 500 people or even 200 or 300 people, that's success in my book. And it depends on what your goals are with your show. I think if you're trying to build an advertising show, you got to worry about building big numbers if that's your goal, if that's your focus. But if you're trying to build a show to support your professional industry, or you're trying to build it to support maybe your consulting business, it's perfectly fine to get a couple hundred listeners to your show. I mean, those are a couple hundred potential customers or
Absolutely.
clients of yours. And the biggest thing that you need to do is develop very close and deep relationships with those 200 or 300 people where they feel very connected to you and engaged with you. I mean, even if you can meet up with as much of your audience at events and connect with them on a personal level as much as you can, I think it really drives your success forward, because then they'll tell other people. So they're like your evangelist out there. So if you want to build a big show, you have to build solid relationships with the audience that you already have.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's quality versus quantity too, right? It's, are you engaged? Are people, are you getting feedback from people that they're enjoying the show? They're getting a lot out of it. And the relationships even that you have with the people that are on your show. I mean, that's been a huge amount of value for me. And I get a kick out of, having someone on my show that's on the other side of the world, and yet you're connected through this podcast and entrepreneurial world. And I just think it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest value I think that I've gotten out of being a podcaster is just the connections with the people that are listening on my show over the years. Those are valuable connections. So
absolutely,
they continue to bring back benefits to you, because what you're doing is you're doing a value exchange with people. You're adding value to their lives, and then thus they feel more compelled to add value to yours. So that's what you're doing. If you do a podcast that really connects with people at a personal level too. Yeah,
I agree. So 15 minutes goes by fast, but I would love for you to share just a success tip to, inspire or give a tip to those that are fairly new to the podcasting world.
I would say that the biggest tip is just be patient and focus on your content, focus on your people connections. This is a word of mouth medium. And what that means is that your show will grow in direct proportion to people's willingness to share to others about your show. So that would be what I would orient myself to as my number one success tip.
I like that. It's very, it's like organic and authentic, and I really love that. I think that's what podcasting is all about.
Yeah.
So how can people find more about Spreaker, about you, and tap into more of your wisdom? I mean, there are so many more topics that we could talk about, but
there's like a 4-hour podcast.
I know.
But really the simplest way is I'm on Twitter at Rob Greenlee, and that's with 2 E's on the end. You can connect with me there. Like I said, I'm with a new company called Voxnest, which actually owns Spreaker and Blog Talk Radio, and that's at voxnest.com, voxnest.com. And you can learn about our kind of new pro-level podcasting platform that we've rolled out here. And it's really powerful, but Spreaker is still there. There's no changes to Spreaker. This doesn't impact anybody that's currently doing shows on Spreaker or Blog Talk Radio. Yeah, it only adds to the power of the overall platform that we're building at the company, because we're here to help you succeed, and that's as a podcaster, and that's what it's all about.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how Voxnest grows, because I knew you're launching stuff today, and it's got some exciting benefits in there for sure.
Yeah, well, great, Lindsay. I appreciate you having me on your program.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, folks, this week's 15-minute cruise to move the needle in your business has come to an end. I know it goes by fast, and I want to thank again our guest, Rob Greenlee, for being on and sharing his podcast expertise. Now, if you are looking to achieve faster growth through podcasting, of course, and blogs, videos, social media, look no further than smoothbusinessgrowth.com. And I wish you, of coururse, a profitable and productive week, and may the winds always be at your back.